Welcome to the Tier 2 Chemical Reporting Training. This will be the first of 3 presentations covering the actual reporting process. The agenda for today, as you can see, we've already done the first introduction and background presentation. That will be in a separate video. So access that if you need to see updates to the rules. We're currently going to be covering how to access steers, and later we'll be covering using the Tier 2 core data application, and then finally using the Tier 2 reporting application. So who should attend this particular training? This is good if you're new to reporting, if you need any TCQ agency numbers which are required to report, if you've required a new facility, or if you want information on affiliating, linking RNs, CNs, and TX2 numbers. So all Tier 2 reporting in Texas is done through the TCQ's online reporting system called STEERS, which is short for State of Texas Environmental Electronic Reporting System. It is essentially a portal to multiple different reporting sections within the agency. This presentation will be covering it as it applies to Tier 2 reporting. One important thing to note within STEERS as a way to verify your identity is the STEERS participation agreement, and we'll be covering that more in detail later on. As far as how to access STEERS, you can always access this portal through the TCQ homepage. It is also linked multiple times on the Tier 2 web pages on the TCQ site. If you need assistance with your STEERS account specifically, Tier 2 staff may not be able to assist, and you will need to contact the STEERS team directly. Situations where this would apply would be if you're locked out of your STEERS account, can't remember your ER account number, which is essentially your user ID, or if you need to reactivate your account due to a long period of absence, which caused it to be shut down temporarily. You can see the STEERS phone number there, as well as the STEERS email. So the first step is going to be how to actually get a STEERS account, and this will be for new users. So in short, the steps will be that you will go to STEERS, which I showed the links to previously. You'll create an account, fill in your account information. The system will check for duplicates and then allow you to create the account. You'll set the account security questions. An email will be sent to the email address you provided to set the password. Once you've set the password, you'll also be able to receive your ER account number, and then you'll proceed to select which Tier 2 applications you'll need to access. So this here is the STEERS homepage. And you can see there under the I need section that you need to create a new account. It will then take you to a page telling you that you will have 15 days to complete this process, but the entire process in general should take less than 15 minutes. So I would recommend doing it all in one sitting. Once you've proceeded to the next page, you'll need to fill in your personal information. Any data field with a red asterisk will need to be required, and I would recommend paying close attention to the provided email address, as that is the email address that the password and ER account number will be sent to. Once you fill that information, it will ask you to confirm. So go ahead and make sure that everything is correct and proceed. It will then check for duplicates. Since each STEERS account is specific to the user creating it, each person should only have one STEERS account. So if you recognize the username, company name, and the city as being yourself, you may have created an account and forgotten about it. If this is the case and you've forgotten your ER account number to log in, go ahead and reach out to the STEERS team directly. Next, you'll need to set your security questions. Please keep in mind that you'll be asked one of these questions each time you log into your account, so make sure you select answers and questions that you will be able to remember. The answers will be character specific, similar to a password, so make sure that you type it in as you'll normally type it in. You can also see on this page that your assigned ER account number is already showing up at the top of the page. This will also be included in the email that will be sent to set up your password. Now that you've gone to this page, you have created your account, and at this point you have the option to select your first Steers program to add. Additionally, at this point, that email to set your password will have already been sent. So go ahead to your email and click the link verification key to set your password. And then it will take you back to a separate Steers page where you'll enter the created password, and then it'll ask you one of those security questions that you answered previously. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and set password, and it will say that the password was set successfully and that you should go ahead and log in. So once you log in using that ER account number and the newly set password, you will come to your Steers account homepage. Initially, you will find that you do not have access to any program areas because you've not added any yet. If you do need to add one, go ahead to the My Account page. And under the Steers Access section, you will select either the Tier 2 Core Data application or the Tier 2 Reporting application. So here you can see you have the Tier 2 Core Data application, which is used to affiliate agency numbers such as your CN, RN, and TXT2 numbers, and we'll be going more in detail on that later, or the Tier 2 Reporting application, which is where you'll actually create, sign, and submit Tier 2 reports. Anytime you add a program area, you will need to submit that Steers participation agreement, which we'll also go into more detail on later. Please keep in mind that whenever you're on Steers, there will be a timer in the upper right page showing a countdown. This will vary between 15 minutes and 20 minutes, depending on the page you're on. And if this timer ever runs to 0, you will be automatically logged out. And if you're in process of filling a page out, it will lose all of the information you'd entered. If you are logged out due to this timeout, go ahead and log back in and navigate back to the page you were on previously. So when you log in, you'll go ahead, like I said, go to the Steers webpage, log in with your ER account number as your user ID and the previously set password. Verify your account by answering the security question. At that point, it will show you a list of your previous logins. Since you're the only person that should have access to your account, you should recognize all of the date and times of when you logged in previously. If this is your first time logging in, obviously there will be no records of previous logins, but going forward, every time you log in will be shown here. So to add a application, you'll navigate to My Account. Under Steers Access, you'll see the Select Program to Add or Modify. And at this point, you'll need to decide which application you'll be needing. Again, there's a Tier 2 Core Data application that's used to create or link TCQ agency numbers. So you have the customer number, which is a number identifying the owner or operator. You have the regulated entity number, which that is a number specific to the facility or the site in question, and those are usually tied to specific addresses. And then you also have the TXT2 number, which is the Tier 2 program ID that is going to be linked on a one-to-one basis with your customer number. So every customer number will have one TXT2 number and vice versa. Keep in mind that the Tier 2 Core Data application is only used to make these affiliations, so it may not be required for you to have it. There's also going to be the Tier 2 Reporting application, and that is where you will access previously submitted Tier 2 information or generate new Tier 2 information, which will allow you to create, fill out, and submit Tier 2 reports. This application is required in Texas if you're going to be filling out a Tier 2 report. So now on to step 2. We're going to select the Tier 2 Core Data application and add it to your account. So again, you've signed into your Steers account. You've navigated to the My Account page. On that Steers Access for the Steers Program to Add or Modify drop-down list, you'll see Tier 2 Core Data. Once you've selected that, you'll be taken to the Access page, and you'll see 3 different sections you'll need to fill out. There's the access type, and then the 2 different authorization statements. Under the access type and authorization section, you'll see that there are 4 different access types. You have the read-only, the edit, the prepare, and the sign role. Each of these access tiers entail different levels of authority, but if you will be the only person using this and needing to create, fill out, sign, and submit a Tier 2 core data application to generate or affiliate RN numbers to your CN and TXT2 number, you will need to have the sign authority because all applications will need to be signed before they will be able to be submitted. For the authorization statements, you'll select whether or not you represent the facility or the parent company. Then for who is authorizing access, you'll pick the second option that carries the sign and submit authority. If you would like, you can select the third option, which will allow you to be getting access from someone else. Keep in mind that whoever will be granting you access must also have a Steers account, and the authority, title, company, and phone information that you provide must match their Steers account credentials exactly. If you have more questions on how to do this, I would recommend reaching out to us directly, and we would be happy to assist you and whoever will be authorizing your access. So now that you've added access to the Tier 2 core data application, you'll also need to be submitting a Steers participation agreement to take that requested access off probation. If you navigate back to your My Account page, you'll notice that under the Steers access section, if you've added a program area, it will now show under the current program area section. And if any of those accesses are on a probationary status, there will be a probationary column there. So you'll see that this account just added the Tier 2 core data application, but it is on a probationary status. So you will not yet be able to access that. And we'll go into actually filling out and submitting that Steers participation agreement a little bit later. So again, you have the probationary core data access. Now you can go ahead and proceed to add the Tier 2 reporting application. And then after you've done that is when you'll get into the Steers participation agreement. So now we'll be adding the Tier 2 reporting application. But please note, before you'll be able to add the Tier 2 reporting application, your RNs, CN, and TXT2 number must all be affiliated. So if this is your first time ever reporting and you do not have a CN and TXT2 or any of your facility RNs linked, you will need to do that process in the Tier 2 core data prior to being able to add your CN to the Tier 2 reporting application. But if your facility or company has reported in the past, this information should already be linked and you should be able to add the CN to the Tier 2 reporting application. So again, for adding new program areas, once you've gone into your Steers account, you'll select My Account. On that Steers access section of the program to add or modify, I'll select the Tier 2 reporting and hit Go. And similar to the Tier 2 core data, you'll go ahead and need to select your access type and then the 2 authorization statements. So here's that full page. You'll also notice that there's a section where you'll be entering the CN you'll be requesting access to. So for the access types, you have the prepare, secondary, and primary roles as the only valid roles. You'll also notice that there's a read-only role, but this access is not a valid choice, so you're not going to want to pick it. So again, you've got the prepare, secondary, and primary. It's always a good idea to coordinate within your entity on who's going to be holding these roles, especially if multiple people are going to be needing access to this CN. So these 3 roles, the most important is going to be the primary role. It has full sign and submit authority, but it can only be claimed for a CN by a single Steers user. So if you're going to have 5 people requesting access, only one of them will be able to hold this primary role. and everyone else will need to be holding either the secondary or the preparer role. So the secondary role also carries full sign and submit authority compared to the preparer role, which can create and fill out Tier 2 reports, but does not have the ability to sign nor submit them. So for the authorization statements, you'll have the facility or the parent company again. And if you selected the preparer role, you'll need to select the first option. But if you selected the secondary or primary role, you need to pick the second option, because that is the one that entails a sign and submit authority. If you try to select the incorrect access type, you'll get an error message telling you cannot proceed. At this point, you can go ahead and enter the CN or CNs that you'll be requesting access to with that selected access type. Or you can go ahead and enter in another person's ER account number if you just need the same access that they have as far as the CNs that they have requested access to. If you enter in a CN and are greeted with the following error message, that likely means that none of your facility RNs have ever been associated to your CN, and thus a TXT2 number has probably never been created. So at this point, you'll need to use the Tier 2 core data application to actually generate or affiliate those numbers prior to being able to add the CN. So if it does accept your CN, it will pull up a confirmation page where you'll need to confirm the selected access type, as well as the CN you requested. Make sure to verify that the name matches what you're expecting it to. If you accidentally transpose a number in that CN, you may accidentally request access to somebody else's CN, which would not be good. So at this point, you'll notice that under your reporting ID list, you'll see a list of all CNs that you've requested access to, as well as their status and the role that you selected. When you first requested access to a CN, it will be on a probationary status until you submit a STEERS participation agreement. If you navigate back to your account summary page, under that current program area, if you added core data, you'll obviously see that. And also now that you've added the Tier 2 reporting application, you'll see the number of IDs, CNs, that you requested access to, and whether or not any of them are on a probationary status. So now the final step is to submit the STEERS participation agreement. And keep in mind that you'll need to do this every time you make an authority access change on your account. So this will be a process that you'll likely become familiar with if you're constantly making changes to your account. So to access the STEERS participation agreement, you'll go to My Account, and on your account summary page on the top menu bar, you'll see the option to do a paper SPA or to e-sign an SPA. If you have a valid Texas driver's license, you're able to electronically sign your SPA, which will happen instantaneously. If you do not have a valid Texas driver's license, you will need to generate a paper SPA and mail it in to the address listed on that form. Keep in mind that with mailing time and processing time, this can take over a week sometimes. So for electronically signing your SPA, if you have a valid Texas driver's license, you'll need to enter in the information on your driver's license exactly as it appears, and it will use this information to verify your identity with the Texas Department of Public Safety's database. So as far as both a paper SPA and an electronically signed SPA, one STEERS participation agreement can take multiple program areas off probation. So if you are adding access to both the Tier 2 core data application and the Tier 2 reporting application, if you're able to add both and they're both in a probationary status, just one STEERS participation agreement will take both that requested access off probation. And keep in mind, any change to your Steers account as far as authority access for currently added applications or adding new applications will put that back into probation, and a new Steers participation agreement will need to be submitted. So once you have received access and taken that applications off probation with the Steers participation agreement, for the Tier 2 reporting application, you'll then need to receive secondary access approval. For those that have requested the primary role, that secondary access will be granted by TCEQ staff, and that process usually takes 1 or 2 days. We try to check it, especially during reporting season, as often as possible. Keep in mind that if you request primary access on a CN or someone else already holds that primary role, if we grant your access, you will be kicking out and overriding the access of the current holder. So that's why it's important to coordinate within your company on who's going to be holding that role. As the last thing you want is to kick someone else out of their primary role when they need that access. So it's always a good idea to coordinate, select a central person as that primary role holder, and then have everybody else sign up as that secondary or preparer role. And then that primary role holder will then be the person that grants that secondary access to the users that requested the secondary and preparer roles. So until you've received that secondary access, even if you've taken your requested access off probation, you will not be able to access the application until you've received that secondary access. And primary role holders will receive email reminders letting them know that there is pending requests for access from other users as that secondary and preparer role. So once you've completed these steps, you now have access to the Tier 2 reporting and Tier 2 core data applications, and you're ready to move on to the next steps. If you have any questions over this process, this is the Tier 2 program contact information. You have the Tier 2 main line, as well as a 1-800 number. Keep in mind this is valid for in Texas residents only. You also have the Tier 2 help email inbox, and especially during reporting season, the quickest way to get assistance is the Tier 2 help form. The Tier 2 help form is the fastest way to receive assistance. It's found on all web pages of the Tier 2 reporting website on the right side of the page, and it will allow you to enter in your contact information. It'll allow you to give details on the question you have, and Tier 2 staff go through those help forms and answer them in the order they were received, so you don't have to worry about people jumping ahead of you. You'll be getting assistance as quickly as we're able to assist you. When filling this out, we highly recommend that you provide your ER account number for your account, as that is one of the first bits of information that we usually ask for, so we can get an idea of the current situation of your account. Please keep in mind that all Tier 2 staff for the 2020 annual reporting period will be working from home. This does provide some unique challenges as far as assisting people remotely. So we appreciate that you all are understanding of this. Now moving on to the Tier 2 chemical reporting training for the using the Tier 2 core data application. So this is the third portion. We just went over how to generate and create your Steers account. So if you still need to create a Steers account, go ahead and watch that portion. So who should attend this training? This is if your site has had a change of ownership, you might need this. If you're brand new to reporting, if you need a CN, a new facility RN number, or a TX2 number. If you already have a CN, but you've acquired a new facility, you'll need to affiliate or create a new RN for that site. Or if you've reported before and nothing has changed, you may not need the Tier 2 core data application. Again, the Tier 2 core data application is only used to affiliate agency numbers. So if you haven't had any change from last year, it's very likely that you will not need to do anything in the Tier 2 Core Data application, because once a facility RN is linked to your CN and TXT2 number, this is not a process that you need to do every year. You only need ever to do it once. So what are these TCEQ numbers? You, of course, have your customer number, the CN, that's assigned to the owner-operator of the facility. It's essentially the owner-operator ID number, and it's unique for each company and organization, usually linked to a Secretary of State filing number. Again, each customer number can only be affiliated to one TXT2 number. There's not a way in the system to affiliate it to multiple. So if you think you have multiple TXT2 numbers and aren't sure which one is yours, go ahead and reach out to us and we'd be happy to verify. You also have the regulated entity number. That's assigned to a facility or a specific site. And again, this is unique to an address or location. So it's very possible that if you acquire a site that already has been submitting Tier 2 reports or has some other affiliation with the TCEQ, they likely already have an RN number. So you need to be affiliating your CN to that existing RN. If you create a new RN for a site that already has an RN number, Central Registry will likely identify that number as a duplicate and will simply merge them, and you'll just have created extra work for yourself. You also have the TXT2 number, that's the TCEQ program ID, and that is going to be linked on a one-to-one basis to the customer number. So here's a visualization of how those numbers relate to each other. So you have the CN, which is associated to the company and linked to the TXT2 number. And then under that CN and TXT2 number, you have all of your facilities, each with their own unique RN tied to that specific location. So for Tier 2 reporting purposes, if your site or your company does not have an RN or a CN, these will need to be created. And that process is all done for Tier 2 purposes within the Tier 2 Core Data application. So again, the Tier 2 Core Data application, that's where you create CNs, RNs, and TXT2 numbers. If you have other business with the TCEQ, you likely already have a CN, very possibly you already have RNs. So these are the numbers you'll be using when doing Tier 2 as well. So if you have questions about what your CN is or your RNs, say you believe you already have them, but you didn't keep a record of what those numbers are, you can always use the TCEQ Central Registry database. And that allows you to search by company name, site address, and so forth. Please keep in mind that since Tier 2 data in Texas is confidential, if a facility RN is only associated with the Tier 2 program, it will actually not show up in a public Central Registry search. So if you believe that to be the case, go ahead and contact the Tier 2 program and we'd be happy to help you verify. So as far as actually using the Tier 2 Core Data application, once you've added access to it and taken that request off probation with the STEERS participation agreement, you should see it as a selectable program area on your STEERS homepage. If you need to do anything in that application, go ahead and select it. And you'll be taken to the activities page where you'll see the option to fill out a new application or to access an application by password. If you need to create one, you'll go ahead and select the fill out option. Or if you need to access an application that someone else had started, you can select access. This would be useful if you need to sign an application on behalf of someone else or submit it. But if you're needing to create a new one, go ahead and select fill out. Verify that you're wanting to create a Tier 2 Core Data application. And then it will tell you that the application has been created and it will assign you an application reference number and an application password. This application reference number is useful for if someone else needs to sign the application, or if you have questions about this specific application that you've created, if you call Tier 2 for assistance, we'll likely ask you for this reference number. So it can be a good idea to write this number down. Or if you're going to be sharing this with someone else, you can go ahead and write that password down as well. And you can always change that password at a later date, or you can hit the Set Access Rights section below to proactively give someone else access by inputting their ER account number. Once you've written down this information, you can proceed by hitting Next, and it will take you to the first of 3 steps, where you'll be entering in the site information. This is essentially where you'll be entering in the RN information. So if you already know the existing RN, go ahead and input that number into option 1. Or if you're going to be needing to create an RN from scratch, go ahead and put in the name and the county information at a minimum into option 3. We also recommend that you put in the physical address in the city, as this will allow the system to check for duplicates, because again, we do not want to be creating duplicate RNs. Once you've input that information into option 3 or option 1, it'll take you to the second part of this first step, and you should see a Copy RE Information button. And this will take the information you previously entered into those data fields and input it into the required sections below. And any section with a red asterisk is required. So this includes the site name as well as the address. If your site does not actually have a physical address, you can go ahead and change that prompt from yes to no, and it will give you the options to give detailed driving directions. And under the new program rules, new driving directions are required. You can no longer simply put C lat long or provide the latitude and longitude. You'll need to give step-by-step driving directions. So again, these are all of the required sections. Please verify the latitude and longitude. We typically require to at least 4 decimal points, but we do recommend going even more precise, particularly if your site is in a busy area with a lot of buildings nearby. Once you've proceeded past the RN information, you'll come to the second step, where this is where you'll be entering the customer information. If your entity already has a CN, go ahead and select option 1. Or if you're needing to create a new CN, go ahead and select option 3, making sure to pay special attention to the ownership type, be this corporation, public, or a public employer. Certain entities will need to put in their federal tax ID, Secretary of State filing number, and potentially their state franchise tax ID as well. Again, just like with RNs not wanting to have duplicates, you also do not want to create a duplicate CN. So if you put in information that our central registry checks as having a potential duplicate, it will warn you. If the information does not match what you believe would be the case, go ahead and select new customer and proceed. At this point, you'll need to fill in and review all of the customer information. If you're selecting an existing CN, all of that information will already be filled in for the customer information. If not, you'll need to enter it. And then you also need to fill out every other section with a red asterisk on this page. The responsible authority contact is typically the person that is going to be signing or filling out this application. So you'll need to put in your first and last name, as well as a mailing address and so forth. Finally, you'll come to the third section, and this is the TXT2 number. If your CN is already recognized as having a TXT2 number associated with it, this number should automatically be filled in. Otherwise, you can select no, and when you sign and submit this application, one will be generated for you. Once you've filled out this third and final step, you can hit next and save. And it will take you back to the activities page. And now, in addition to that fill out and access page, you'll also have a table below showing your pending active applications. This will show the reference number that was assigned, as well as the name of the regulated entity and the site location that you entered. Also, you'll have the status. So if you are in process of filling one out and need to leave it and come back at a later time, that status will show in progress, and you can always hit that edit button to pick up where you left off. If that status is ready to sign and you don't need to create any other applications before you sign and submit all of them, you can hit that checkbox on select, and assuming you have the sign authority, you can hit sign. Once you hit the sign button, it will take you to the signature page where you'll confirm that you've read all of the agreements below. And then where it's asking for your password, that is the Steers ER account password. So that's the password you use to log into your Steers account. And then once you filled that in and marked that verification checkbox, you can apply the electronic signature. At this point, once you've signed it, you'll have the option to submit it or return back to the activities page. If you're doing multiple applications, it can be useful to return to the activities page. That way you can submit them all at the same time, or you can go ahead and proceed to submit it to have this affiliation completed. If you do proceed to submit it, it'll take you to a verification page. It'll show the status as ready to submit for all of the reference numbers that you selected. And then finally, you'll come to the authorization congratulations page. This is the page showing that that application has been successfully submitted, and it will have a link to the copy of the record, and that is going to be a link showing all of the information that was submitted on that Tier 2 core data application. And then more importantly, you're going to have a link to the approval letter. If you are generating new numbers, this approval letter is where it will show the assigned CN, RN, and TXT2 number. You can see here, it'll be in that official TCQ letterhead. So we've now shown how to use the Tier 2 core data application. And hopefully at this point, you will have affiliated all of your required numbers. So you should be ready to add the Tier 2 reporting application if you weren't able to previously, or if you already have access to it, you'll now be ready to file your Tier 2 report. Again, keep in mind that you only ever need to affiliate a facility RN to your CN and TXT2 number once, and once you've done so, you should be able to add it to a draft annual or initial Tier 2 report if it's the first time filing for that facility. Again, if you have any questions over the Tier 2 core data application, you can contact the Tier 2 program by our phone numbers seen on screen, our email, or to push it again, the Tier 2 help forum is the quickest way to receive assistance, particularly during the annual reporting period, as the number of phone calls and emails and so forth that we get rises dramatically. Here we are now with the Tier 2 chemical reporting training on using the Tier 2 reporting application. So we have previously gone over the introduction to the program, how to create and access a Steers account, how to use the Tier 2 core data application to create and affiliate agency numbers. And now we're proceeding on to how to actually use the Tier 2 reporting application to create, fill out, and submit, and then export Tier 2 reports. So for who should attend this training, obviously if you're new to reporting, if you want a review over the Tier 2 reporting application, because maybe you haven't had to submit a report since last year's annual report, or if you're interested in seeing the updates that we've made since last year, of which there have been quite a few. One thing to keep in mind, starting this year, Internet Explorer will no longer be supported. as it's also no longer being supported by Microsoft itself. So we recommend using Firefox, Google Chrome, or the newest version of Edge. I personally use Google Chrome, find it all works great. Additionally, Safari, I do not believe it works on that as it has not been tested in any way. So there is a possibility when using the Tier 2 reporting application that certain buttons may be found to be inaccessible. We found that this issue usually stems from users that have a screen magnifier. So if you are unable to see buttons on your screen that are visible during training or that you know should be there, go ahead and hold down the control button and hit the minus key to go ahead and zoom your screen out, and that usually solves the issue. So as far as accessing the Tier 2 reporting application, I'll go ahead and log into your Steers account, verify your account credentials, and then once on your home page, you should see the Tier 2 reporting application as a selectable program area. So once you've selected Tier 2 reporting application, there are two potential landing pages. First, if you have access to multiple CNs, it will take you to a list of IDs that you have access to. Alternatively, if you only have access to a single CN, it will take you straight to the reports list page. So again, if you have access to multiple CNs, it will take you to your Tier 2 accounts page, and you'll need to select which CN you'll be operating in at that time. Alternatively, again, if you have just the one CN, it will take you straight to the reports list page. And this is the page that lists all previously submitted reports, as well as any current draft reports. You can see the report type, be it annual, initial, or update, the year for the report, which come January 1st, you'll be able to start your 2020 annual report. It'll list your report title and the certification date. Any report with a certification date has been submitted. Any report without a certification date is a draft report. You'll also be able to see the number of facilities on that draft report. One of the big changes that we've made this year is that going forward, any report that you submit on this reports list page, you should see that there is a new column titled Files. When you submit a report, all of the facilities on that report will be automatically exported as either a PDF or an XML file, and you can access that file by selecting the relevant icon on this reports list page. So this is big news, as you will no longer be required to use the FTP site, which is that third party hosting site for large files. This can all be done now through the Tier 2 reporting application. There are also some other ways to export files, such as if you want specific facilities only, and we'll go into that later. So when navigating the Tier 2 reporting application, you have the navigation pane on the left side of the page, of which there's been some changes to. If you need to switch between which CN you're working in, if you have access to multiple, you can always select the Tier 2 account button to go back to that list of IDs you have access to. You can select the Start Draft Report to create a new report. There's also the facility search page in case you need to pull up information on a specific facility. And then most importantly, for the new information, we have the Export and Print Reports page. So this page will allow you to generate exports either as a PDF or an XML file within the Tier 2 reporting application. So again, you will no longer need to use the FTP site. And this also works with reports with over 1,000 facilities. So there's no size limit for using this functionality. You also have the report search page, which that's important because that is where the list all button is to get back to that reports list page. You have the option to add contacts to multiple facilities. And if you're the primary role holder, this is where the authorized users for account option will be found as well. So if you hold that primary role and need to grant access to someone that has requested access to your CN with the secondary or preparer role, this is where you'll be able to do that. So for the report search page, again, you can find the list all button at the top, and that will get you back to the account reports list. Or alternatively, you can use either the detailed search or the facility search to search for specific reports. Here we are with the account reports list, again found by hitting that list all button. And this is where you'll find all current draft reports as well as all previously submitted reports. You also have the facility search page. This is if you need to export using the old method through the FTP, but again, we have the new method, so that should not be needed anymore. But this is also useful for searching for a specific facility report if you want to review that information. The new export and print reports page is seen below. You can go ahead and select the reporting year that you're searching for, or sites in a specific city or LEPC, or you can just see all reports in the list below. We highly recommend using the report title when filling out reports, because it serves as a useful filter. So say if you represent the Dallas branch and all the Dallas facilities are submitted on one report, and then all of the, say, the Houston facilities are submitted on another report, if you select the report title and fill it out as Dallas 2020 annual report, something along those lines, when you're coming to export your reports, you can simply filter by that title and export just your reports. It saves you time of not having to filter through the other regions' reports as well. Once you've selected the facilities that you want to export, you can export them as an XML file, which is compatible with the Tier 2 Submit application, as well as the Cameo suite of software. Or you can export them all as one PDF or each to their own PDF. So a general timeline on steps needed to file a Tier 2 report. You'll of course log into your STEERS account and select the Tier 2 reporting application. You'll add a draft report, choosing the type of report and title. You'll add the existing facilities to the draft report. So if you're not seeing a facility that you want to add to a report on this list, that means that the facility either has not had its RN associated to your CN and TXT2 number with the core data application, or it is already present on another draft report. It is important to note that a single RN can only be present on one draft report at a time. You'll then, once you've saved and created that report, want to review the facility data. So you'll click the blue RN to access the report. You'll make any updates as necessary to the facility, contact, or chemical data. You'll then validate your report. If it passes validation, you can go ahead and submit the report and then export or print those copies to be sent to the LEPC and local fire station. So as far as starting your draft report, you'll come to the page where you'll select the type. There is the annual, initial, or update. So for the upcoming January 1st, you'll be able to start your 2020 annual report, which is due March 1st. Again, you will not be able to start that report until January 1st. You can then go ahead and fill out the report title and then select the Add Existing Facilities button. At that point, you will have a full list of facilities that are able to be added to that report. Keep in mind, if it's the first time you're reporting on a facility, it will need to be added in an annual or initial report, because new facilities and new chemicals cannot be added on an update report. That is only used to update, say, chemical locations or contact information. If you are needing to reactivate a previously closed facility, you will mark the Include Inactive Facilities button, and that should show the previously inactivated facilities. So go ahead and select which facility RNs in the list below you're wanting to include. You'll also be able to filter by the report title going forward. So if you provided a report title for your facilities last year, you can go ahead and filter by that and select all of your facilities. Once you've hit select, you should see them show up in that facilities list, and then you can hit save to actually create that report. And you'll now notice that all of those facility RNs have a blue hyperlink. So you now have a draft Tier 2 account report. It'll list your account information, as well as the draft report information. And at this point, you can modify the title. And also it will show all of the facilities present on the draft report. So you can always select one of those blue RN hyperlinks to access that specific facility report. You can add additional facilities by hitting the Add Existing Facility button, or if you're needing to move facilities between draft reports, you can hit the Transfer Facility button. So if you want to modify any of the information within a RN facility report, you'll select that RN, and this will take you to the facility detail page. On this page, you'll see the Facility tab, Chemicals tab, and Contacts tab. The facility information is going to be information such as the site name, whether a facility is staffed, subject to the EPA program for a risk management plan, or subject to 302, meaning you have an extremely hazardous substance on site above the threshold planning quantity. You'll also need to fill in the NAICS code if it's not already activated. One new change on the facility status page is that on the facility page is with the facility status section. Previously, there were dates, the effective date and the expiration date listed near the top of the facility page. This information was not clear what it was used for, so this information has now been moved down to its own section near the bottom of the page. So if a facility was closed in the previous year and no longer needs to be reported for, so say it was sold or it no longer carries chemicals above the reporting threshold, this is where you would put the date that you are no longer required to submit that Tier 2 report. Keep in mind that if a facility was active at all during a year, it does need to be included on the annual report for that year. So say you had a facility that closed or was sold in June 2020, it would need to be included in the 2020 annual report submitted between January 1st and March 1st of 2021. So moving on to the Chemicals tab. This is the page that lists all of the chemical information on site, as well as if you have any attachments, such as a site plan. While site plans are not required, they can be a useful tool, particularly if you have a very large facility that is difficult to navigate through just written directions. So if you need to add new chemicals, you can select the Add button, or if you need to access an existing chemical, you can hit the hyperlinked chemical name. So how to add a new chemical. Once you hit Add, you'll come to the Add Facility Chemical page. And next to the cast number, you should see that there is the Select Chemical blue hyperlink search option. When you select that, a chemical search pop-up should appear, and you can either search by the cast number or the name. If your chemical name does not show up in this list, because they are by no means comprehensive, you can go ahead and simply hit the back button to generate a blank chemical record. Please keep in mind that if your chemical is classified as an extremely hazardous substance, you will need to use the chemical search to generate that, so it will be recognized as an EHS. Once you have searched for that chemical name or hit back to generate a blank chemical, You'll go ahead and put in the CAS number if applicable, the chemical name, as well as all other required information. That includes whether it is pure or a mixture, and then whether it's a solid, liquid, or gas, the hazards and health effects, the number of days on site, and then the maximum and average daily amounts. The actual maximum amount in the largest container can be useful if, say, you have a large number of barrels and they're all the same size. You can put that information there, but it is optional. You'll also need to provide the chemical locations, and that requires detailed storage location. So again, you have the health and hazards, which can be found there. So when you do select the add for the health effects or for the hazards, you will have the option to come up where you see the different options you'll select. Not every chemical will have both a health effect and a hazard, but go ahead and list any of the relevant choices, and you can usually find this information on the chemical safety data sheet. So once you've added and updated all the relevant chemical information, you can proceed to the Contacts tab. And at this point, you can select Add to add a contact. You can use the Search for an existing contact button. So if you have contacts already added on other facilities, you can select that and you'll see a list of previously added contacts. So rather than creating a unique contact for the same person on every site, I would recommend using that person's existing record. That way, if you make a change to their contact information on one facility, it will go and be changed on all facilities. If you do need to create a blank record for a new contact, you can simply hit the back button. At that point, you can go ahead and put in the person's name, as well as, importantly, the type of contact they are. Keep in mind that each site requires the owner-operator contact, a Tier 2 information contact, a billing contact, an emergency contact that has 2 different phone numbers, one of them being a 24-hour number. And if your site is subject to 302 due to having an EHS above the reporting threshold, you will also need to have the facility emergency coordinator contact type. One thing to note for the billing contact is this is the contact that an invoice will be mailed to. So as far as adding and removing contact phone numbers, you'll want to go ahead and add the new contact prior to removing the old one. So this applies with both contacts and phone numbers. So now that you've filled out the facility, chemicals, and contacts tab for that facility, you'll need to do the same thing for all of your facilities. And once you believe that you have filled out all required information, you can go back to the report detail page and select the Validate Report Data button. This will do a verification check to make sure that all the required data fields are filled out. And depending on the number of reports you have, the number of facilities that you have on said report, this verification may happen instantaneously, or it may need to do a background job. So if errors are found, you will see a red error message along the top, as well as under the report attachment section, you will find the error log. And this error log will detail the different validation errors that were found, and they will each need to be corrected before you'll be able to submit the report. So once you have filled out a report, validated it successfully, you will then be able to submit the completed report. So on this page, you'll need to mark that certifying statement, put in your signature and title, and that password is the password to your Steers account. So again, you'll need to mark that certifying statement and fill in all the other required information. before hitting the submit button. Small reports are able to be submitted immediately, just like with the validation, whereas larger reports may require a background job to be done prior to it being successfully submitted, so it will be an in-progress process. Once a report is successfully submitted, on that report detail page, you'll see an option to download the report as either an XML file or as a PDF. So again, this is the warning that if your report has too many facilities to be submitted automatically, it will tell you that a background process has been created. And if you have a particularly large number of facilities, this could take up to 24 hours. So please check back once that time has passed, and you should see whether or not it was successfully submitted. Once it is successfully submitted, you should get that confirmation of submittal document, as seen below. And the confirmation of submittal serves as proof that this Tier 2 report has been submitted for the listed facilities to the TCEQ. So if an investigator ever stops by, you can go ahead and show them that confirmation of submittal, and that's proof that this report was submitted to us at the TCEQ, one of the 3 entities that reports need to be submitted to. It also includes a summary of the submission fees if it's an annual or initial report. And on this same page, you'll also see the Pay Now feature if you're wanting to make use of our ePay. Please keep in mind that there has been some slight changes to the payment structure this year. Credit card payments now include a service fee, but if you use an electronic bank transfer, this service fee does not apply. One big change this year is that in previous years, there was a $1,000 cap on being able to use the Pay Now ePay feature. Now that cap is up to $80,000, so all Tier 2 reports should be able to be paid using the ePay system now. So now that you've submitted your report, you're going to want to export or print copies of it. So you can either access the downloadable copy on that report detail page, or you can come over to the export and print reports page, or you can of course access it from the reports list page where you can see that PDF and XML icon. But if you're wanting a custom report, say you only want some of the facilities on the report, not all of them, you can go to the export and print reports page, select the relevant facilities you want to export, select the option, and then once that export has been completed, you can come back to this page and you should see a list of the facilities that were exported, and those exported reports are kept for 10 days in the system. So if it's been 10 days and you need to access it again, you can always just redo that same export process. So as far as some hypothetical scenarios, say this is your first time reporting, you've never reported before, you're going to need to get a STEERS account. You're going to need to add the Tier 2 core data application, sign that STEERS participation agreement, and you're going to need to create and affiliate your TCEQ numbers. So that's your RN, CN, and TXT2 number. And then you'll create, sign, and submit your reports. And then of course, print the report. And then once you've printed those, you'll send it to your local fire station and your local emergency planning committee. There are also instances where your company did report last year and you're reporting on all the same facilities this year. So again, you'll get your STEERS account if needed. If you are the one that reported last year, you can simply access your already existing STEERS account. You'll open the Tier 2 reporting application. You'll add a draft report and add your necessary facilities to the report. And since these facilities were submitted on last year, all of the information that was submitted last year will serve as a starting point So if nothing has changed, you'll simply need to review it. If there have been changes, you'll go ahead and update the facility, chemical, and contact data. And then you can validate and submit the report, and similarly print that report and send it to the LEPC and local fire station. There's also the situation where your company reported last year, but you have new facilities. So you'll access your STEERS account. If you have the new facility, you'll need to use the Tier 2 core data application to make that affiliation prior to you being able to add it to your new annual report. And then you will validate and submit the filled out Tier 2 report once you filled in all the relevant information, and then you'll print and send off that report to the LEPC and local fire station. So again, if you sold a facility last year, when you're filling out that RN's facility report, on that facility tab, you will mark that date of sale or the date where you were no longer required to submit the report as the facility status closeout date. So if you have any questions or need assistance on the Tier 2 reporting process, please feel free to give us a call, shoot us an email, or the quickest way to get assistance is, of course, the Tier 2 help form. And that Tier 2 help form, it's the fastest way to receive assistance. It's linked to on the Tier 2 web pages on that right side of the page. And we do answer those in the order they were received. So that is the fastest way to receive assistance. Thank you for attending the training. And again, if you have any questions, please contact us.